Steve Harvey stood backstage, reviewing his notes one more time, though he had already memorized every detail. In all his years hosting Family Feud, he had seen plenty of surprises, but what was about to happen would be different. The producers had been working for weeks to arrange this moment, and now, hidden in a private green room with a production assistant, 52-year-old Marcus Thompson waited nervously, watching the monitor as his twin brother, a brother he had never known existed, prepared to play Family Feud with his family. On stage, the Carter family from Detroit, Michigan, stood at their podium wearing matching blue shirts. Michael Carter, 52 years old, with close-cropped graying hair and an athletic build, adjusted his microphone and smiled at his family. His wife, Nina, stood beside him, still striking after 28 years of marriage, her hand resting gently on his arm. Their 3 adult children, Jasmine, 27, Darius, 25, and Trey, 23, filled out the team, each carrying that mix of excitement and nerves that came with being on television. "Welcome, welcome to Family Feud," Steve announced, striding onto the stage with his signature energy. The audience erupted in applause, completely unaware they were about to witness something extraordinary. "We've got a great show for you today. Let's meet our first family from Detroit, Michigan, the Carter family." The audience cheered as Steve approached their podium. "Now, Michael, I understand you do some important work in Detroit. Tell me about that." Michael's face lit up with a smile that came from talking about work he genuinely loved. "Well, Steve, I've been coaching high school basketball for 27 years now. Currently the head coach at Cass Technical High School in Detroit." 27 years. Man, that's dedication. "You winning games?" "We do all right," Michael said modestly, though his children were grinning. "We won the state championship a few years back. But honestly, it's not really about the wins and losses for me. It's about the young men, teaching them discipline, teamwork, how to handle adversity. Basketball is just the tool we use." "That's beautiful, man. I love that." Steve turned to Nina. "And Nina, what's it like being married to a coach?" Nina laughed warmly. "It's an adventure, Steve. Our dinner schedule revolves around practice times. Our weekends are all about games. I've probably watched more basketball than most professional scouts at this point." "How long you been married?" 28 years this past summer," Michael answered, glancing at his wife with obvious affection. "And Jasmine, what do you do?" Steve asked, moving to their daughter. Jasmine stepped forward slightly. She had her father's athletic build and her mother's warm smile. "I'm a guidance counselor, Steve. I work at a middle school in Detroit, helping kids figure out their path forward." "Following in Dad's footsteps, helping young people?" "Absolutely. Growing up, watching him mentor his players, seeing how he changed lives, I wanted to do something similar." Steve nodded approvingly before continuing down the line. "Darius, what about you?" "I'm a physical therapist, Steve. I work with a lot of athletes, actually, helping them recover from injuries and get back in the game." "And Trey, you're the baby. What do you do?" Trey smiled. "I teach elementary school PE, Steve. 2nd grade through 5th grade. Best job in the world." Hold on, Steve said, a grin spreading across his face. "So we got a basketball coach, a guidance counselor, a physical therapist, and a PE teacher. This whole family is about helping people." "We believe in service," Michael said simply. "My parents raised me that way. They always said if you can help somebody, you should. So we all found ways to do that." "Tell me about your parents, Michael." Michael's expression grew softer, more reflective. "My father, Robert Carter, worked for the post office for 35 years. My mother, Dorothy, was a nurse. Both of them are retired now, living in Florida, enjoying the sunshine. They were incredible people growing up. Dad coached my little league teams. Mom volunteered at church. They taught me everything about integrity and hard work." In the green room, Marcus leaned forward, his breath catching. The production assistant noticed his reaction. "You okay, Mr. Thompson?" Marcus nodded, unable to take his eyes off the screen. "He just described my childhood. Different parents, but the exact same values, the exact same lessons. Back on stage, Steve was asking about the family dynamic. "So, Michael, with 3 grown kids, you all still close?" "Very close." Nina answered for her husband. "Sunday dinners are mandatory in our house. Have been since the kids were little. We all get together, cook, talk about our week. It's sacred time." "That's beautiful." "Michael, you mentioned your parents are retired in Florida. You get to see them much?" "We visit a few times a year. They love being grandparents, spoiling the kids rotten." Michael paused, a slight change in his expression. "But Steve, there's something about my parents I should mention. I was adopted. They told me when I was about 7 years old. They sat me down and explained that they chose me, that I was special to them, and they were special to me. They were my parents in every way that mattered." The studio grew quieter, the audience sensing something significant in this revelation. "Did you ever wonder about your birth family?" Steve asked gently. "Always," Michael admitted. "Not because I wasn't happy. I had a great childhood, but there was always this feeling, like a piece of the puzzle was missing. I'd look in the mirror and wonder who I looked like. I'd see twins on TV and feel this strange pull, this curiosity." Jasmine stepped closer to her father. "Dad, remember when I got you that DNA kit for your birthday last year?" Michael smiled. "Yeah, baby. You said it would be fun to learn about our ancestry, where the family came from." "It was more than that," Jasmine said, her voice beginning to shake with emotion. "Dad, when we got those results back 6 months ago, we found something. Something big." Michael's expression shifted to concern. "Jasmine, what's going on?" Steve moved closer, his usual comedic energy replaced by genuine emotion. "Michael, your daughter reached out to our producers because she wanted to do something special for you, something that would change your life." "I don't understand," Michael said, looking between Steve and his daughter. Jasmine's eyes were filling with tears. "Dad, the DNA test showed a match. A really close match. Closer than a cousin or even a half-sibling." The audience was completely silent now, sensing the weight of the moment. "What kind of match?" Michael asked quietly. "A twin," Jasmine whispered. "Dad, you have an identical twin brother." Michael's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, something that looked like recognition of a truth he had always somehow known. Nina immediately took his hand, steadying him. "That's impossible," Michael said, his voice barely audible. "My parents said. The adoption agency said I was alone. They never mentioned." "They probably didn't know," Steve said gently. "Back in the early 70s, twins were often separated for adoption. Agencies thought it was easier to place single babies. They didn't understand the bond, didn't think about what it meant to separate siblings." Michael was gripping Nina's hand tightly now, his children surrounding him. "I have a brother? A twin brother?" "You do," Steve confirmed. "His name is Marcus Thompson. He's 52 years old, just like you. He lives in Cleveland, Ohio. And Michael, he's been looking for you too." "Cleveland," Michael repeated softly. "Where is he?" "Is he here?" "He's backstage right now," Steve said. "Marcus found out about you around the same time you found out about him. Your daughter Jasmine and his daughter Alicia have been working with our producers to make this happen." Michael's legs seemed unsteady, and Trey quickly moved to support his father. "Can I meet him?" Steve nodded and turned toward the wings. "Marcus? Marcus Thompson? Come on out here, brother." The man who walked onto the stage could have been Michael's reflection. Same height, same athletic build, same way of walking with confidence and purpose. Marcus's hair was styled differently, a bit longer, but the face was unmistakably identical. He was wearing khaki pants and a burgundy polo shirt, and his expression showed the same mix of hope and disbelief that Michael displayed. For a long moment, the brothers simply stared at each other. The studio was so quiet you could hear the cameras adjusting. Then Michael took a tentative step forward. "You look just like me," he said, wonder in his voice. "I was thinking the same thing about you," Marcus replied, and their voices were remarkably similar, same timbre, same slight Midwestern accent, despite living in different cities. They met in the center of the stage, and when they embraced, the audience erupted in applause and tears. Steve himself had to turn away for a moment to compose himself. The two men held each other tightly, 52 years of separation dissolving in that moment. When they finally stepped back, both men were crying openly. Marcus reached up and touched Michael's face gently, as if confirming he was real. "I always knew something was missing," Marcus said. "My whole life, I felt like there was supposed to be someone else. I thought I was crazy." "You weren't crazy," Michael said firmly. "I felt it too. Always. Like I was incomplete." Steve gave them another moment before gently guiding them to sit on the Family Feud steps. The game structure had been completely abandoned. Now this was about something far more important than points or prizes. "Marcus," Steve said softly, "tell us your story. When did you find out about Michael?" "The Tang Bayan has wad. Creases of place of sons." Marcus wiped his eyes, taking a breath to steady himself. "About 6 months ago. My daughter Alicia, she's a researcher. Works at a university. She got me one of those DNA kits for my birthday. I wasn't really interested at first, but she insisted. Said it would be interesting to learn about our heritage." He paused, looking at Michael again, as if to make sure he was still there. "When the results came back, there was this match. A really close match. At first, we thought it had to be an error. But Alicia started digging, doing research, and, well, here we are." "Here we are," Michael repeated softly. Steve turned to the audience. "Now, what you all don't know is that our production team has been working behind the scenes to put together some information about these two men's lives. And what they found? It's going to blow your minds." A screen lowered behind them, showing side-by-side photos of the two men. "Michael, you've been coaching high school basketball for 27 years, Steve began. "Marcus, what do you do for a living?" Marcus smiled through his tears. "I'm a high school basketball coach, too. Have been for 26 years. I coach at John Adams High School in Cleveland." The audience gasped audibly. Steve continued, "Michael, you won a state championship. Marcus, we won state 3 years ago," Marcus said, his voice filled with wonder. "Michael, you've been married 28 years. Marcus, 26 years this December. Michael has 3 children. Marcus, 3 children also. Alicia, Brandon, and Kenya." "This is incredible," Steve said, shaking his head. "But it gets even better. Michael, what position did you play in college?" "Point guard. I played at Wayne State University." Steve turned to Marcus. "And you?" "Point guard. At Cleveland State." The audience was making sounds of amazement. Steve pulled out more notes. "Both of you met your wives in college. Both of you proposed in the same month, December. Both of you had your first child at 26 years old." Marcus and Michael were staring at each other in disbelief, laughing and crying at the same time. "Do you have any habits or quirks?" Steve asked. "Things that make you you?" Michael thought for a moment. "I always tap the doorframe twice before I leave the house. It's this weird ritual I've done since I was a kid. Nina thinks I'm superstitious." Marcus's mouth fell open. "I do the same thing. Twice. Every time. My wife Teresa calls it my good luck tap." "Do you have any phobias?" Steve asked. "Heights," they both said simultaneously, then looked at each other in shock. "I can't even climb a ladder without getting nervous," Michael added. "Same," Marcus said. "My kids make fun of me for it." Steve was clearly moved by what he was witnessing. "Can we bring out Marcus's family? I think it's time for everyone to meet." Marcus's wife, Teresa, came out first, a petite woman with warm eyes and a bright smile. She immediately embraced Nina like they were old friends. Their children followed: Alicia, 29, Brandon, 27, and Kenya, 24. The cousins stood staring at each other, marveling at the instant connection they felt. "This is surreal," Alicia said, looking at Jasmine. "You look so much like my dad." "Tell me about it," Jasmine replied. "I keep doing double takes." As the two families mingled on stage, Steve addressed the audience. You know, in all my years hosting this show, I've seen a lot of families. I've seen families that compete, families that laugh together, families that support each other. But today, we're seeing something different. A family discovering each other for the first time. He turned back to the brothers, who were now sitting side by side, their body language unconsciously mirroring each other. Michael, Marcus, I have to ask, did either of you ever have dreams or feelings that might have been connected to this? Michael nodded slowly. I've always had this recurring dream. I'm on a basketball court, but I'm looking for someone, calling out for someone, and I can never find them. I wake up feeling this sense of loss, but I never understood why. Marcus's eyes widened. I have the exact same dream. The exact same one. I'm searching for someone on a basketball court, and I can never find them. Maybe you were searching for each other, Nina suggested softly. Steve pulled out some cards his producers had prepared. Now, we did some research into your adoption records. Your birth mother was a young woman named Patricia Lewis. She was 18 years old when she had you in Cincinnati, Ohio. According to the records, she wanted to keep you both together. But the adoption agency had different ideas. Different times, Marcus said quietly. They didn't understand back then. The record shows she specifically requested that you be placed together, Steve continued. But the agency believed it was easier to place single babies. They thought they were doing the right thing. Michael's voice was thick with emotion. Do you know anything else about her? About our birth mother? She's still living, Steve said gently. She's 70 years old now, living in Columbus, Ohio. And your families have already been in touch with her. She's been hoping for this reunion for 52 years. Both brothers were crying again, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were learning. She never forgot you, Steve added. According to her sister, your aunt, Patricia thought about you both every single day. She celebrated your birthday every year, always keeping you in her heart. Teresa stepped forward. We've already made arrangements for you both to meet her next month, if you want to. She's excited but nervous. She's afraid you might be angry with her. Angry, Michael said immediately. How could we be angry? She was so young. She did what she thought was best. She gave us good lives, Marcus added. Our adoptive parents were wonderful people. We were loved and cared for. We turned out okay. Steve brought out photos the production team had compiled pictures of both men throughout their lives. First days of school, high school graduations, wedding photos, pictures with their children. Look at this, Jasmine said, pointing to photos of both men at their high school graduations. You're both holding your diplomas the exact same way. And here, Alicia added, showing wedding photos. You both have your hand in the exact same position. The similarities kept piling up. They both drank their coffee black. They both read the sports section of the newspaper first thing every morning. They both had coached players who went on to play college basketball. They both had torn their ACL. Michael at 19, Marcus at 20. Wait, Michael said suddenly. Do you have a Lucky coaching shirt? Marcus laughed. A sound so identical to Michael's that it made everyone pause. A red polo. I've worn it to every championship game. Mine's red too. Nina keeps trying to throw it out because it's got a small stain on it, but I won't let her. Teresa does the same thing, Marcus exclaimed. She says it's ratty and old. It's not old, it's seasoned, both men said at the exact same time, then stopped and stared at each other in amazement. Steve was shaking his head. This is unbelievable. What about music? You guys into music? Love jazz, Michael said, especially Miles Davis. There's something about Kind of Blue that just speaks to me. Marcus's eyes widened. That's my favorite album of all time. I listen to it before every game. It calms me down, helps me focus. Same. I've got it on vinyl, CD, and digital. I must own 5 copies of that album. Darius stepped forward. Dad, tell him about your pregame routine. Michael looked slightly embarrassed. It's kind of silly. I listen to Kind of Blue. Then I write down 3 words on a piece of paper, 3 things I want the team to embody that night. Focus, discipline, heart, whatever feels right. Then I fold it up and keep it in my pocket during the game. Marcus pulled out his wallet and extracted a small, folded piece of paper. I do the exact same thing. I've been doing it for 20 years. Look. He unfolded it carefully. Tonight's words were going to be for our next game. Resilience, trust, family. The studio erupted in gasps and applause. Michael pulled out his own wallet and showed an identical folded paper. I've got last week's game in here. Strength, unity, belief. This is beyond coincidence, Steve said, his voice filled with wonder. This is connection. This is that twin bond everyone talks about. You two were connected, even when you didn't know the other existed. Nina spoke up, her voice emotional. Michael has a box at home. He's kept every single one of those pieces of paper. Every game for 27 years. Thousands of them. Teresa nodded. Marcus, too. He has them in a shoebox in our closet. I asked him once why he keeps them, and he said he didn't know. He just felt like he should. Do you dream in color or black and white? Jasmine asked suddenly, looking between her father and uncle. Color. They both answered immediately. Do you remember your dreams? Almost never, they said in unison again, then laughed. Kenya, Marcus's daughter, pulled out her phone. Uncle Michael, I want to show you something. Dad sent me this photo last year. She showed the screen to Michael. It was Marcus, standing in his high school gym, arms crossed, watching his team practice. Why are you showing me this? Michael asked. Because look at this. Jasmine pulled out her phone and showed a photo of Michael in the same exact pose, arms crossed the same way, standing in his gym. The body language is identical, Alicia observed. Even the angle of your head, the way your weight is shifted to your left foot, when you rested about, the way you're fit, when you're end about. Brandon had been studying both men carefully. Dad, Uncle Michael, can you both stand up for a second? The brothers stood, and Brandon positioned them side by side. Okay, just stand naturally. Don't think about it. They both shifted their weight the same way, crossed their arms identically, tilted their heads at the same angle. It's like looking at the same person twice, Trey said in amazement. Do you have any injuries? Steve asked. Old war wounds from your playing days? Bad. Right ankle, Michael said. Sprained it badly in college, and it's never been quite right since. It bothers me when it rains. Same ankle, same injury, Marcus confirmed. Sophomore year of college. Came down wrong on a layup. I can always tell when weather's coming because it starts aching. Left or right-handed? Right. Morning person or night person? Morning, they both answered. Up at 6:15 every day. Without an alarm? Without an alarm. Steve looked at the wives. Ladies, I got to ask, are they good husbands? Do they help around the house? Nina and Teresa looked at each other and smiled. They both cook, Nina said. They both do laundry, Teresa added. They both insist on washing their own cars, they said together, then laughed. And they both leave their shoes by the front door instead of putting them away. Nina finished, and both wives nodded in agreement. Hey, that's a practical system, Michael protested. Very efficient, Marcus agreed. And they high-fived each other, which made everyone laugh. This is giving me chills, Steve said. You two lived parallel lives for 52 years, making the same choices, following the same path, never knowing the other existed. Jasmine stepped forward, holding her phone. There's more, actually. When we started researching after finding the DNA match, we discovered something else. Dad, you remember that tournament you coached in 10 years ago? The one in Indianapolis? The Hoosier Classic? Yeah, we came in third place. Jasmine turned to Marcus. Uncle Marcus, were you there? Marcus's face went pale. We were. We came in fourth place that year. Wait, are you saying you were at the same tournament? Alicia confirmed. We found the photos. You're literally in the background of each other's team pictures. You were in the same building, probably passed each other in the halls, and never knew. The brothers stared at each other, the weight of that near miss evident in their expressions. How many times? Michael wondered aloud. How many times were we close and didn't know it? We found at least 3 other tournaments where you both competed, Jasmine said. Different years, but you were in the same gyms, breathing the same air, watching the same games. The universe was trying to bring you together, Steve said softly. It just took a little DNA test to finally make it happen. Marcus's son, Brandon, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Dad, does this mean I finally have the uncle I always wanted? I was always jealous of my friends who had uncles to talk sports with. Michael immediately smiled. You like basketball? Love it. I play in a rec league every weekend. Well, you've got an uncle now. And I expect updates on how your team is doing. This is what I'm talking about, Steve said to the audience. Look how natural this is. They're already acting like family. Because they are family. They always were. They just didn't know it. As the taping continued, both families exchanged stories and contact information. The children had already created a group chat and were making plans to visit each other. The wives were discussing holiday schedules. Before we wrap up, Steve said, I want to ask you both something. What would you say to other people who might be in your situation? Adopted folks who wonder about their biological families? Or people who've been separated from siblings? Michael spoke first. Don't give up hope. I spent 52 years with this feeling that something was missing, and now I understand what it was. If you're wondering about your biological family, take that DNA test. Reach out. The worst that can happen is you don't find anything. But the best. He looked at his brother. The best is beyond imagination. Marcus nodded. And I want to say this. Being adopted doesn't diminish the families who raised us. My parents gave me everything. They loved me, supported me, made me who I am. But finding Michael, it's like finding a piece of myself I didn't know was missing. There's room in our hearts for all of it. Adoptive families and biological families, they can all coexist. What about your birth mother? Steve asked gently. Are you planning to meet her? Michael and Marcus looked at each other, having a silent conversation that only twins could have. We are, Michael said finally. Next month. Our families have been in touch with her, and she's overwhelmed. She's been carrying this for 52 years, wondering about us, hoping we were okay. She told my daughter that she used to drive past basketball courts, Marcus added, his voice thick with emotion, just hoping she might catch a glimpse of us. She didn't even know if we played basketball, but something told her we might. And she was right. That's a mother's intuition, Steve said. That bond doesn't break, even across time and distance. Teresa spoke up. Patricia, that's her name. She's been following both their careers. Once she learned they were coaches, she started keeping newspaper clippings. She has scrapbooks full of articles about their teams, their championship wins, everything. She's been watching from afar all these years. She never remarried, Nina added. She told us that after giving them up, she couldn't imagine having other children. She said it wouldn't be fair to them, that her heart would always be with her first babies. The audience was silent, many people wiping tears from their eyes. When you meet her, Steve said, what do you want to say to her? Michael thought for a moment. Thank you. Thank you for giving us life. Thank you for making the hardest decision a mother can make because you thought it was best for us. And thank you for never forgetting us. I want to tell her she did the right thing, Marcus said. We had good lives. We had parents who loved us, who gave us everything. We became good men, good fathers, good husbands. We're okay, and I want her to know that she can stop carrying that weight now. Beautifully said, Steve concluded. Ladies and gentlemen, what we've witnessed today is something special. Two brothers, separated for over 5 decades, brought together by love, technology, and maybe a little bit of fate. This is what Family Feud is really about. Family, in all its forms. The audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Steve wiped his own eyes, clearly moved by what had transpired. Now before you go, Steve said, when the applause finally died down, we're going to do something we've never done before. We're combining both your families into one team, and you're going to play a round of Family Feud together. 10 people, 1 podium, 1 family. You game? Both families erupted in agreement, crowding together at the podium. The children were laughing and pushing each other playfully, already acting like siblings rather than newly discovered cousins. Michael and Marcus stood at the center, still holding hands, still unable to quite believe this was real. The game that followed was unlike any in Family Feud history. The combined Carter-Thompson family played with pure joy, finishing each other's sentences, celebrating every answer together. They won their round easily, but the prize money was almost an afterthought. $20,000, Steve announced. What are you going to do with it? The families huddled together for a quick conference. Then Michael spoke for all of them. We're donating it. We want to create a scholarship fund for adopted children who want to go to college. The Carter-Thompson Family Scholarship. Because finding each other has given us so much, we want to give back. The audience erupted again, and Steve had to pause to compose himself. That's beautiful, man. That's really beautiful. The final moments were a flurry of hugs, photos, and promises. The production assistants had to gently remind them that they needed to clear the stage, but no one wanted to leave. They lingered, talking, laughing, marveling at the miracle of this day. Hey, Marcus said suddenly to Michael, what's your favorite food? Fried chicken, the way my mom used to make it super crispy, with hot sauce. Teresa makes the best fried chicken. Come to dinner tomorrow night. Bring the whole family. We're in Cleveland, Michael reminded him. So come to Cleveland. We've got a spare room. Actually, we've got 2 spare rooms. The kids can stay too. Michael looked at Nina, who was already nodding. Okay, yeah, let's do it. Just like that? Steve asked, overhearing the conversation. Just like that, Michael confirmed. We've got 52 years to make up for. No point in waiting. Backstage, the 2 families continued to mingle, reluctant to separate. Production staff members who had seen thousands of tapings found themselves crying, moved by the raw emotion and genuine connection. Alicia and Jasmine had gravitated toward each other, both being around the same age and sharing the experience of discovering this family secret. How did you feel when you first saw the DNA results? Alicia asked. Jasmine thought carefully. Shocked, obviously, but also, it explained so much. Dad always had this melancholy about him sometimes, this distant look, like he was searching for something. Mom and I used to talk about it. We thought maybe he was just reflective, you know? But now I understand. He was incomplete. Dad, too, Alicia said. He'd be at family dinners, surrounded by people who loved him. And you could just see it sometimes, this loneliness that didn't make sense. Teresa would ask him if he was okay, and he'd always say yes, but you could tell something was off. And now? Jasmine asked. Now he looks whole. For the first time in my life, my dad looks completely happy. The brothers themselves had found a quiet corner, sitting together and talking softly. They were comparing photos on their phones, decades of memories shared in minutes. This is my first day as head coach, Michael said, showing a photo of himself looking impossibly young, standing in front of a basketball hoop. Look at mine, Marcus said, pulling up a similar photo. First day too. We're wearing almost the same outfit, khakis and a polo. Did you ever think about quitting? Michael asked. Those first few years are hard. The long hours, the losing seasons, while you figure it out. Every day for the first 3 years, Marcus admitted. But something kept me going. I couldn't explain it then, but I felt like I was supposed to be doing this. Like it was my calling. Me too. Even when we were losing, even when it was hard, I knew I was where I belonged. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. A silence that felt natural and right. Can I ask you something? Marcus said finally. And you can say no, if you want. Anything. Do you ever feel like you're missing memories? Like there are these blank spaces in your mind where something should be, but nothing's there? Michael's eyes widened. Yes. I've never been able to explain it to anyone. It's not like regular forgetting. It's like there's a shape where a memory should be, but the memory itself is gone. That's exactly it. Teresa thinks I'm crazy when I try to explain it, but I've always had this feeling, especially when I was little, that I'd forgotten something important. Maybe we're remembering each other, Michael suggested. Maybe our baby brains knew we had a twin, and when we were separated, It created these empty spaces. Or maybe we're not missing memories, Marcus said thoughtfully. Maybe we're missing the person we were supposed to make those memories with. Michael put his arm around his brother's shoulders. Well, we're going to make plenty of new ones now. Brandon and Darius had discovered they had more in common than just their age. They were both runners. Both loved science fiction movies. And both had recently gotten engaged. When's your wedding? Brandon asked. Next June. We're still planning it. Trying to figure out the venue and everything. Ours is in August. You should come. Seriously. I mean, we're family now, right? Absolutely. And you're coming to mine? They shook on it, grinning at how natural this all felt. Trey and Kenya had bonded over their shared love of working with younger kids. They were trading stories about their students, laughing at the similarities between elementary schoolers and high school athletes. They're all the same, really, Kenya was saying. Whether they're 7 or 17, they all just want to be seen and heard. And they all think their problems are the biggest in the world, Trey added. Which, to them, they are. You have to meet them where they are. The wives, Nina and Teresa, had found a quiet spot to talk. They were already planning the logistics of this newly merged family. We should create a shared calendar, Teresa suggested. For birthdays, anniversaries, visits. There's so much to coordinate now. Good idea. And we should plan regular visits, not just holidays. Regular weekends where we just get together. Michael mentioned you all do Sunday dinners every week, without fail. It's our family time. We do the same thing. Sunday dinners at our house. The kids all come, we cook together, play games. It's our tradition. Then we should do some Sunday dinners together, Nina said. Once a month, maybe? Alternate between our houses? I love that. And the kids could do video calls on the other Sundays. Keep the connection strong. They were already talking like old friends, like sisters who had known each other for years rather than hours. A production assistant finally had to intervene. Folks, I'm so sorry, but we really do need to clear the stage area. We have another family waiting to tape. The goodbyes were prolonged, with multiple rounds of hugs and last-minute exchanges of phone numbers and social media handles. Tomorrow, Marcus said to Michael one more time. You're really coming tomorrow? We'll leave first thing in the morning. Should be there by lunchtime. I'll have Teresa make that fried chicken, and I'll bring dessert. Nina makes a pound cake that'll change your life. They embraced one final time, and when they separated, both men's eyes were red. Thank you, Michael said to Jasmine and Alicia. Thank you for doing this, for finding each other, for reaching out to the show, for making this happen. We just connected the dots, Jasmine said. You guys did the hard part. You lived good lives, became good men, raised good families. That's what made this reunion so beautiful. As the Carter family finally walked toward the exit, Michael turned back one more time. Marcus was still standing there, watching them leave. They waved to each other, and in that moment, the reality of what had happened truly sank in. After 52 years, they had found each other, and nothing would ever be the same again. Hey, Marcus said suddenly to Michael as they prepared to leave the stage. Do you follow the NBA? Michael grinned. Lifelong Pistons fan. Marcus laughed. Cavs for me. Guess that's one difference we've got. Or, we could just enjoy watching games together, Michael suggested. Get the best of both worlds. I like that idea, Marcus agreed, and they embraced once more. As the families finally left the stage, Steve stood alone for a moment, visibly moved. He had hosted thousands of episodes, seen countless families compete. But this was something different. Sometimes, he said to the audience, this job gives you gifts you don't expect. Today was one of those days, to witness brothers finding each other, to see a family become whole. That's why we do this. Backstage, the two families continued to mingle, reluctant to separate now that they had found each other. They took dozens more photos, the children already planning visits and trips together. You know what the best part is? Alicia said to Jasmine as they watched their fathers deep in conversation. They have so much in common, but they're also different enough to be interesting. They complement each other. Minus to complement each other. Minus to complement each other. Minus to complement. Jasmine nodded. When I first saw that DNA match, I was excited from a scientific standpoint, but this, she gestured at the two men who were now comparing photos of their teams. This is beyond science. This is beautiful. Nina and Teresa had gravitated toward each other, already making plans. We should coordinate holidays, Nina was saying. Make sure everyone gets time together. Absolutely, Teresa agreed. Thanksgiving in Detroit this year? Cleveland next year? Perfect. As the families finally prepared to leave the studio, Michael and Marcus stood together one more time. They were still discovering similarities, the way they both gestured when they talked, their matching laughs, the identical way they rubbed their chins when thinking. 52 years, Michael said softly. We missed 52 years. No, Marcus corrected gently. We lived 52 years that led us to this moment. Everything that happened, our families, our careers, our children, it all brought us here. We didn't miss anything. We were just taking different paths to the same place. Michael smiled at that. When did you become a philosopher? Probably around the same time you did, Marcus shot back. And they laughed, that identical laugh that their families would come to treasure. As they prepared to leave, they made a promise to talk every day. Video calls were already set up on their phones, courtesy of their tech-savvy children. Tomorrow morning, Michael suggested. 7 o'clock? That's when I have my coffee. That's my time too, Michael marveled. Of course it is. The studio doors closed behind them, but their story was just beginning. The next morning, true to their promise, the Carter family loaded into their SUV at 5:30 in the morning for the drive to Cleveland. The kids were tired, but excited, energized by the prospect of spending more time with their newly discovered family. I can't believe we're doing this, Nina said as Michael drove through the quiet Detroit streets. 24 hours ago, you didn't know you had a brother. Now we're driving 3 hours to spend the day with him. Michael smiled, his hand steady on the wheel. It feels right though, doesn't it? Like we should have been doing this all along. It does, Nina agreed. Did you sleep okay last night? Barely. I kept waking up, afraid I'd dreamed the whole thing. Then I'd check my phone and see the texts from Marcus, and I'd remember it was real. In the back seat, Jasmine was scrolling through her phone. Uncle Marcus just texted. He and Aunt Teresa are already up cooking. They're making enough food for an army. That's what family does, Michael said softly. They arrived at the Thompson house in Cleveland at 9:15. It was a warm, inviting home in a quiet neighborhood, with a well-maintained lawn and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Marcus must have been watching for them because he was out the door before they'd even parked. You made it, he called out, jogging down the driveway. Told you we would, Michael said, climbing out of the car and immediately being pulled into a hug. I know, but part of me worried you might reconsider. Might think this was all moving too fast. Not a chance. We've already wasted 52 years. I'm not wasting another day. Teresa came out to greet them, her warmth immediately putting everyone at ease. Welcome, welcome. Come in, please. I hope you're hungry because we've made way too much food. The house smelled incredible fried chicken, fresh biscuits, collard greens, mac and cheese, sweet tea. It was exactly the kind of meal that said family and welcome home. This is amazing, Nina said, taking in the spread on the dining room table. You didn't have to go to all this trouble. It's not trouble, Teresa insisted. It's joy. We've been waiting 52 years to host Michael's family. A little fried chicken is the least we can do. The meal was loud and chaotic, in the best possible way. The children were all talking over each other, sharing stories and making plans. The adults were quieter, but no less engaged, marveling at how natural this all felt. Okay, I have to know, Darius said at one point. Uncle Marcus, what's your coaching philosophy? Dad's is all about defense first, building from the ground up. Marcus laughed. Defense first. That's exactly my approach. I always tell my players, you can have an off night shooting, but you can never have an off night on defense. Defense is about effort and heart. Dad says the exact same thing, Trey exclaimed, almost word for word. What about offensive sets? Brandon asked. What's your bread and butter play? Pick and roll, Michael and Marcus said simultaneously, then laughed. With a weak side option if the defense collapses. They continued in unison, then stopped and stared at each other in amazement. That's scary, Kenya said, grinning. You two are like one person, split into two bodies. After lunch, the men moved to the living room while the women cleaned up. Though cleaned up mostly meant talking and laughing together while occasionally washing a dish. Michael, Marcus said, settling into his recliner. Can I show you something? Of course. Marcus went to a closet and pulled out a large box. These are my memory boxes. All those papers I told you about. The ones with the 3 words before each game. I have them all organized by season. He opened the box, and Michael leaned forward to look. Inside were hundreds of small folded papers, each labeled with a date and an opponent. Can I see some? Michael asked. Please. Michael carefully unfolded a few, reading the words Marcus had chosen over the years. Passion, integrity, courage, trust. Each paper was a tiny window into Marcus's coaching philosophy, his values, his heart. These are beautiful, Michael said quietly. They're not just about basketball. They're about life. That's what I've always tried to teach. Basketball is just the vehicle. Can I show you mine? Michael pulled out his phone and scrolled to his photos. I started photographing mine a few years ago. I still keep the originals, but I like having them digital too. I can look at them when I need reminders. He handed the phone to Marcus, who scrolled through the images. The words were different, but the sentiment was identical. Unity, sacrifice, excellence, family, heart, determination. We've been coaching the same game, Marcus said in wonder. In different cities, with different players, but teaching the same lessons. Because we're the same person, Michael said. Shaped by different experiences, but fundamentally the same. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, just being together. It was Marcus who finally spoke. Do you ever wonder what our birth mother thinks about when she thinks of us? All the time, especially now that I know we're meeting her soon. Are you nervous? Terrified. What do you say to someone who gave you life but couldn't keep you? How do you tell her it's okay when you know it probably wasn't okay for her? I've been thinking about that too. I don't want her to feel guilty. She was so young. She made an impossible choice. But I want her to know we're grateful, Michael added. Grateful for life. Grateful that she cared enough to place us with families who could give us what she couldn't at that time. And grateful that we found each other. Especially that. The afternoon passed quickly. They went out to the driveway and shot hoops together. The brothers playing 2-on-2 with their sons. They were evenly matched, their playing styles similar enough to be eerie. You both favor your left when you drive, Darius observed. Even though you're right-handed, and you both talk trash the exact same way, Brandon added, laughing. What way is that? Marcus challenged. Creative and relentless, his son replied. You never stop talking, and it's all psychological warfare. It's strategy, Michael protested. It's annoying, Trey said, grinning. But effective. They played until the sun started to set, until they were all sweaty and tired and happy. Back inside, Teresa and Nina had somehow produced another meal lighter than lunch, but no less delicious. You know, Teresa said as they all sat around the table for dinner. I was thinking, we should take a family photo. All of us together. The first official Carter Thompson family portrait. Everyone agreed enthusiastically. They set up a camera with a timer, and after several tries, someone was always blinking or looking the wrong way. They got the perfect shot. 12 people, 2 families, 1 unbreakable bond. Michael and Marcus stood at the center, arms around each other, wearing identical smiles. Their wives flanked them, and their children filled in around them. Looking at the photo later, you couldn't tell where one family ended and the other began. As the evening grew late, and the Carter family prepared to drive back to Detroit, the goodbyes were bittersweet. This was perfect, Michael said to his brother. Thank you for opening your home to us. It's your home too now, Marcus replied. Whenever you want to come, our door is open. Breekly Present, ReadableReaders.com, end quote. Same goes for Cleveland to Detroit. Consider our place your second home." The brothers embraced, and this time, it felt different than the first hug on the Family Feud stage. This wasn't the hug of strangers discovering a connection. This was the hug of brothers affirming a bond that had already taken root. "Same time tomorrow?" Marcus asked. 7 o'clock video call? I'll be there. Hey, Michael? Marcus called as they reached the car. "I'm really glad Jasmine convinced you to take that DNA test." "Me too, brother. Me too." The drive home was quieter than the drive there. Everyone was tired, full, and emotionally drained in the best possible way. "Dad," Jasmine said from the back seat, "are you okay?" Michael glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "I'm better than okay, baby. For the first time in my life, I feel complete. I didn't realize I was broken until I was whole." Nina reached over and squeezed his hand. "We have a lot of road trips to Cleveland in our future. And they have a lot of trips to Detroit in theirs. This is just the beginning." Over the following days, Michael and Marcus fell into a rhythm. Every morning, at exactly 7 o'clock, one of them would call the other. They'd talk while making coffee, discussing everything from what they'd dreamed about to what they had planned for the day. "It's the weirdest thing," Michael told Nina one morning after his call. "I'll think of something I want to tell him, and before I can bring it up, he brings it up. Like we're sharing the same brain." "That's the twin connection," Nina said. "It's real. I've been reading about it. Identical twins, even when separated, often develop similar habits, have similar thoughts. It's like you're tuned to the same frequency." The daily calls became the anchor of both men's days. They'd share stories from their coaching careers, compare notes on dealing with difficult parents and challenging players. They'd talk about their kids, their marriages, their fears and hopes. One morning, about 2 weeks after their reunion, Marcus called at the usual time but sounded different. "You okay?" Michael asked immediately. "Yeah, I had that dream again last night. The one where I'm searching for someone on the basketball court. And this time, I found them. I found you. We were just standing there in the middle of the court, and everything felt right. Peaceful. When I woke up, I wasn't sad like I usually am after that dream. I was happy." Michael's voice was thick with emotion when he responded. "I had the same dream. Exactly the same. I woke up and immediately wanted to call you. But it was only 5 in the morning. We dreamed the same dream on the same night." "Yeah, we did." They sat with that for a moment, neither one knowing quite what to say. "Maybe that dream won't haunt us anymore," Marcus finally said. "Maybe our minds know now that we found what we were looking for." "I hope so, because as much as I'm glad we found each other, those years of searching, they hurt." They did. "But Marcus, we're together now. That's what matters." The meeting with Patricia, their birth mother, was scheduled for 3 weeks after the taping. Both families would make the trip to Columbus, Ohio, where she lived with her sister. The brothers were nervous in a way they hadn't been since the reunion itself. "What if she doesn't like us?" Marcus worried out loud during one of their morning calls. "How could she not like us? We're delightful," Michael joked, but his voice betrayed his own anxiety. "I'm serious. What if we're not what she hoped we'd be? Then she'd be blind." "Marcus, we're good men. We've lived good lives. We have families who love us. We've helped hundreds of kids through coaching. If she can't see that, if she can't be proud of that, then that's on her. But I don't think that'll be the case." "You're right. I know you're right. I'm just scared." "Me too, brother. Me too." They discovered more similarities. They had both honeymooned in Myrtle Beach, different years, but the same hotel. They both loved jazz music. They both had taken up golf in their 40s and were equally terrible at it. They both preferred Nike shoes. They both woke up at 6:15 every morning without an alarm. But they also celebrated their differences. Marcus was more outgoing, while Michael was more reserved. Marcus loved spicy food, while Michael preferred mild. These differences just made their conversations richer, gave them more to explore. The Thanksgiving reunion was everything they had hoped, and more. Both families had driven to Columbus, renting a large house so everyone could stay together. When Marcus's family arrived, they'd driven down the day before. The brothers stood in the driveway for a long moment, just looking at each other. 3 weeks felt like 3 years, Marcus said. I know exactly what you mean. They embraced, and it felt like coming home. The house quickly filled with the sounds and smells of family. Multiple generations cooking together. Children running through rooms, playing tag. Adults setting tables and telling stories. It was chaotic and warm and perfect. Uncle Michael, Kenya called from the kitchen. Come help us with the turkey. Dad says you brine yours the same way he does, and we need a second opinion. Michael laughed and headed to the kitchen, where he found Marcus elbow deep in turkey preparation. I use salt, brown sugar, herbs, and apple cider, Michael said, rolling up his sleeves. That's exactly my recipe, Marcus exclaimed. Down to the apple cider. Of course it is, Alicia said, grinning. Because you two are basically the same person. And again, thank you for watching. And a quote. And a quote. And a quote. And a quote has validated. And a quote. And a quote has a letter was entry. And a quote. And a quote. And a quote. And a quote has a letter was entreed. And a quote has a letter was entreed mess about quote. The cooking became a family affair. Nina and Teresa orchestrated the operation like generals commanding an army. While the brothers handled the turkey together, their movements synchronized in a way that no longer surprised anyone. Pass the basting brush, Michael said. Marcus handed it to him without looking, already knowing what he needed. The children had taken over the living room, decorating for Thanksgiving with construction paper turkeys and handmade centerpieces. Jasmine and Alicia had assumed leadership roles, directing their younger siblings and cousins with efficient teamwork. We should make a thankful tree, Jasmine suggested. Everyone writes what they're thankful for on a leaf, and we put it on the tree. I love that idea. Alicia agreed. They cut out leaf shapes from colored paper and distributed them to everyone in the house. One by one, family members wrote their gratitude and added leaves to the branch they'd attached to the wall. I'm thankful for second chances, Michael's leaf read. I'm thankful for answered prayers, said Marcus's. I'm thankful for DNA tests, Jasmine had written with a smiley face. I'm thankful for long-lost uncles who love basketball as much as my dad, wrote Brandon. When the tree was complete, they all stood back and admired it. 52 leaves, one for each year the brothers had been apart, now brought together in a celebration of gratitude. Dinner was set for 4 o'clock, but people had been snacking all day, unable to resist the amazing smells coming from the kitchen. When they finally sat down with 2 tables pushed together to fit everyone, the moment felt sacred. Who wants to say grace? Teresa asked. I think it should be Michael and Marcus together, Nina suggested. The brothers looked at each other, nodded, and stood. Dear Lord, Michael began, his voice strong and clear. We come to you today with grateful hearts. We thank you for this food, prepared with love, Marcus continued seamlessly. We thank you for family, both found and chosen, Michael said. We thank you for second chances and new beginnings, Marcus added. We thank you for the years we've been given, and the years still to come, they said together. Bless this family, bless this home, and bless the love that binds us together. Amen. They finished in unison. There wasn't a dry eye at the table. The meal was everything Thanksgiving should be: too much food, too much laughter, too much love. They went around the table, sharing what they were thankful for, and every single person mentioned the reunion in some way. I'm thankful that my dad finally found what he's been looking for, Darius said. I'm thankful that our family doubled in size, said Kenya. I'm thankful for brothers, said Trey, looking at Brandon. Both the one I was born with and the ones I gained. After dinner, while the food settled and before dessert, the brothers slipped away to the back porch. It was chilly, but they didn't mind. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, looking up at the stars. Do you think about her? Marcus asked eventually. Marcus asked, Divide One Rested's. Patricia? Every day. I'm nervous about meeting her next week. Me too. What do you think she's like? I don't know, but I think she must be strong. To carry this for 52 years, to never stop hoping we'd find each other. That takes strength. Do you think she'll like us? Marcus asked, echoing his earlier fear. I think she'll love us. Because we're her sons, and mothers love their sons, even when they haven't seen them in over 5 decades. They sat with that truth for a moment. "Can I tell you something?" Marcus said quietly. "Something I haven't told anyone else?" "Always. Sometimes I feel guilty. About being happy. About finding you. Because Mom and Dad, my adoptive parents, they gave me everything. They loved me completely. And I feel like by being this happy to find you, I'm somehow diminishing what they gave me." Michael turned to look at his brother. "I feel the exact same way. But Teresa told me something that helped. She said love isn't a finite resource. Having more love doesn't mean you're taking away from someone else. Finding you doesn't mean I love my parents less. It just means I have more love to give." End quote. One of the menders of the feasting men, there was an had, never menders of menders, with kommen for end of the sentinel, and desprectivation, where work complete slaters, end quote, .common way, end quote. Teresa's smart. So is Nina. She said basically the same thing. Of course she did, Marcus laughed. Our wives are basically the same person too. They laughed together. That identical laugh that their families had come to love. Marcus? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For existing, for taking that DNA test, for being willing to meet me, for being exactly the person I needed you to be. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Right back at you, brother. They sat on that porch until Teresa came looking for them, announcing that dessert was ready, and if they didn't come inside, the kids were going to eat all 3 pies. 3 pies? Michael asked. Your mom's pound cake, Teresa's sweet potato pie, and the pumpkin pie the kids made, Marcus explained. There's no such thing as too much pie on Thanksgiving, Michael declared. And they headed inside to find their families gathered around the dessert table, plates ready. The evening continued with board games and card games, with old stories and new memories. The children taught each other games from their respective schools. The adults shared embarrassing stories about the brothers, much to everyone's delight. Oh, tell them about Dad's fear of birds, Kenya said, laughing. I'm not afraid of birds, Marcus protested. I'm rationally cautious around creatures that can fly at your face. Uncle Michael, are you afraid of birds? Brandon asked. Michael looked sheepish. They're unpredictable, and they have beaks, sharp beaks. The room erupted in laughter. Even this phobia was shared. As the evening wound down, and children started falling asleep on couches and chairs, the adults finally acknowledged that it was time for bed. But no one wanted the day to end. This was perfect, Nina said, hugging Teresa. Thank you for sharing your family with us. Thank you for sharing yours, Teresa replied. We're not separate families anymore. We're one family. The Carter-Thompson clan. I like the sound of that, Marcus said. Me too, Michael agreed. The Carter-Thompson clan has a nice ring to it. That night, in their respective rooms, the brothers lay awake thinking about the day, about the laughter and the love, about the bond that was growing stronger every day, about how something that had been broken for 52 years was finally being mended. Michael's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, even though they were in rooms just down the hall from each other. Still awake? It read, Yeah. You can't sleep. Too happy. Same. This was a good day. The best. Many more to come. Many more, Michael agreed. He set his phone down and rolled over, feeling more content than he could ever remember feeling. Nina was already asleep beside him, and his children were under the same roof, and his brother, his twin brother, was just down the hall. His family was complete. His heart was full, and for the first time in 52 years, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The Family Feud episode aired several weeks later to strong ratings. The reunion clip was shared widely on social media, touching hearts across the country. Steve Harvey later said it was one of the most meaningful moments of his career. But for Michael and Marcus, the media attention was secondary to the reality of having each other. They talked every morning without fail. They visited monthly, alternating between Detroit and Cleveland. They slowly filled in the gaps of 5 decades, creating new memories while honoring the separate paths that had shaped them. On their 53rd birthday, celebrated together for the first time, they held a joint party. Friends, colleagues, former players, and family members came together to celebrate. The cake had 2 candles, and when they blew them out together, they made the same wish for many more years to share. "You know what?" Michael said late in the evening, as the party wound down and they sat together watching their families mingle. "I used to think the missing piece was something I'd lost, but really, it was something I hadn't found yet." Marcus nodded. "And now we have all this." He gestured at the room full of children and grandchildren, wives and friends, 2 families becoming one, double the blessings. "Exactly. We didn't lose 52 years. We gained them. We each built something beautiful separately, and now we get to share it." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that exists between people who are deeply connected. "Same time tomorrow?" Marcus asked as they prepared to say goodbye. "Wouldn't miss it for the world," Michael replied. And they meant it, because when you've spent 52 years apart, you don't take a single day for granted. When you've found your other half, you hold on tight. When you've discovered that bonds can transcend time and distance, you honor them every single day. The party ended as all good parties do, with promises to gather again soon, with hugs that lasted a little longer than usual, with children making plans and adults swapping contact information. But for Michael and Marcus, the real celebration was quieter. It was in the morning phone calls, the shared jokes, the comfort of knowing that the missing piece had finally been found. They stood together at the door as the last guests left, identical in their happiness, their gratitude, their amazement at this unexpected gift. "Next month?" Marcus asked. "Next month," Michael confirmed. "And every month after that, because that's what brothers do. That's what family does. And that's what love does. It finds a way, even if it takes 52 years. In the end, the DNA test that Jasmine had given her father as a simple birthday gift had given them all something priceless proof that families separated by circumstance can be reunited, that it's never too late to find your people, and that sometimes the best surprises come when you're brave enough to look for answers to questions you didn't even know you had. The brothers went to their respective homes that night, knowing that home had expanded to include each other. They would talk in the morning, and the morning after that, and every morning they were blessed to have. The missing piece had been found, the puzzle was complete, and 2 families had become one, bound together by blood, by love, and by the undeniable connection between 2 brothers who had always been meant to find their way back to each other.